Yes, nonsense and analysis. Yeah, hi to everyone. So today was the second round of the or game two of the quarterfinals and in the Women's World Cup. And yeah, let's see who's going to go to the semifinals. So basically, the first board, Tinjili Grandmaster from China won against Grandmaster Tsaknidze Nana. So Nana Tsaknidze is out, and Tingji Lei goes over to the last four. Then on the next board we had another favorite Grandmaster Kuniri Hampi. She drew against Song Yuxin. So remember yesterday we saw that game, a beautiful game by Hampi where she managed to beat Song. So she was leading the mini match with 1-0. So now it's 1.5. So she is through as well. And then the next one was between the two Indian superstars. That is Harika Dronavali and also Divya Deshmukh. So that one was drawn. So remember, yesterday was a draw, so today another draw. So they're gonna go next tomorrow to a playoff. And then the last match, the game that we're going to see, Tan Zhongyi from China defeated Vaishali Ramesh Babu. So yeah, she is also through to the semifinals. So we've got at the moment two Chinese players through, one Indian player, Kunir Hampi, but they are waiting for another player who's going to be Indian because it will either be Harika or Deshmukh. So yeah, it's going to be two Chinese players against two Indian players. So a very, very exciting situation, and that is what we were predicting anyway. That at the end of the day, it's going to be a showdown between India and China. Yeah, these Asian superpowers have really taken, they've moved the power basically from Europe to Asia, and yeah, let's see what's going to happen. But this game was very tense, very interesting. Let's jump into it. So yeah, it was this Slav called what triangle, and white uh, offers a pawn sacrifice, and black accepts it. So now when you reach this position, we know it's going to be very tense because white is going to have compensation for a long time because black has moved. If you look at the position, black has made many pawn moves, but white is in control of the center. So white will then slowly chip away at this wall that black has formulated as placed, and it's going to be a very sharp affair. So bishop b7, knight e5 already. There is a threat. The threat is a simple move. Knight takes b5 is the first threat. But of course, white is not expecting black not to see this. Of course, these are very top players, world-class players. But the knight on e5 is going to be irritating for black, and white is going to push pawns behind the knight. So moves like e4, f4 come into the fray, and also a move like a4 is on the cards. So black plays a6, further strengthening that wall, and white shows that no, I'm not even trying to get my pawn back. It's a pure pawn sacrifice. The argument is that if pawn takes pawn, then white could even take back either with the queen, but even with the pawn, getting the rook into the game. So either way, white would open up lines. So black plays b4, knight a4, c3. And yeah, the disadvantage, of course, the advantage that black keeps the pawn, has a protected pass pawn. Disadvantage, Uh, Many pawn moves have been played and too many weaknesses, like if you look at all these squares. So a weak square we classify as a square that can be protected by a pawn. So if you look at a5, b6, c5 is weak. C4 is a home for white, d6. So there's a whole range of squares that the opponent can look into. So knight c4 is played already, looking at b6. But yeah, this is the point. So black plays a5 to create space for the rook. So if any knight a6, there can be a rook a6 and chips away at the pawn wall again. Bishop a6 exchanges, bishop takes. Yeah, not easy because if pawn takes pawn, possibly knight b6 is a possibility. And there will be a pattern against the rook. So decides to take with the bishop. Queen c2. So speed is important. Now white just wants to play something like rook d1 and then knight takes c3. And then white will stop chasing black very hard because white will just say, look, I have a better position and I'm just going to continue. So black has to go for this, right? So black goes all the way in. But I guess, such positions, you cannot go in unless you have looked at them. Now, what that means is that you may not necessarily have looked at this position, but you would have looked at typical positions and you would know where the pieces would have to go. So that is what I suspect is happening for both players. So bishop f4 is played. And okay, queen takes c4 is not possible because there's a fork. The rook and the queen would be forks or castles, and then plays pawn to c5. Position is very, very unclear still. Knight d7. So black decides to give back some material and play, relatively quickly. Keeps the queen in the center. Rook d1, queen f6. Yeah, I was looking at this and I thought maybe black should play queen e4, just to keep the queen in the center of the board. But it's not easy. These positions you cannot evaluate. You have to calculate. They're very concrete. Okay, so bishop d6, rook c8, and this is where the theme of the game really starts. E4, because what we're having here is when the dust settles, we have this position right here. And I think this position is just better for black. I mean, for white, excuse me. White is slightly better, but not winning, but better. The bishop on d6 is doing a beautiful job. It's stopping, rooks from accessing the square b8. And on the other hand, there always is that positional threat of rolling with the pawns if white is ready to play c6, c7, right? But black's pieces are here and it's not easy. And the pawn on c5 can also be vulnerable. Very interesting position, but I do think that white has got a slight pull here. And easier to play for white, by the way. And during the game, I think one of the reasons why Vaishali lost this game was because she got into time trouble. There's always that's the thing about these positions. They are you need certain bravery, to play this as black because you're going for the win. You're giving yourself chances for the win, but practically you're going to work very, very hard to make it work. And just one slip and the position will collapse. So yeah. So rook c4, yeah, nice move. Queen d5, a good move, centralizing. Queen c2, so both players come back. So how will white win this position, or rather try? White will have to try to do something on the king side. This much is clear. It's not. It's hard to believe that white will be able to win it in the center without black having a say against that. That's what I put this way. So white would have to try to maybe push the h pawn, all the way to h6, or if I push the pawn and black plays h6, then I can shift. Then I can use the fact that I can be threatening some pawn pushes as well as attacking the king, So that's what white has to try and do. At the moment, black has to defend. She plays rook c6, which is logical, stopping any pawn movements. Queen f3, rook d4 is logical, rook d8, and g4. I didn't like this move somehow. I feel that, when I saw it, I feel like it's it exposes the king unnecessarily. For me, of course, White makes their decision, and she's a very strong player. But I thought that, to try, maybe not even just to try, maybe H4. I'm thinking, just to keep the king safe, but try to find a way to push, uh, without making too many weaknesses. But I'm sure she considered this and was unhappy about something. So she decides to play G4. I wasn't too impressed with this. Queen H3, Rook H3, Queen H4, King G2. So what is it all about? So the thing is, can Black stop White? White wants to advance. There's a pawn storm coming here. There's a pawn storm coming. White must be very careful, of course, because White is looking at the C5 pawn and now the kingside pawns, right? So, okay, for example, here now after king g2, the threat is rook h3, right? If the rook moves to h3, there's trouble, of course, because then the queen and the rook will combine on h7. So h6, logical move, and rook g3 is played, queen g5, f4, and queen g6. Yeah, a very brave decision. I thought that maybe queen back to d8, but who knows what's happening? The queen g6 uh, moves back. You cannot be too reckless here because you don't want a situation where, for example, f5, let's say queen g5, where the pawns are blocked. And then once the pawns are blocked, the king weakness will tell. The weakness will tell. Once Black manages to get one of the rooks into the game, that you could be in trouble. So yeah, K is needed. Queen c1, h5, now f5. Pawn takes pawn and takes on h5. So she wants to use the h5, grabs the pawn. So we see now there are ideas of some rook h3 at some point, yeah, especially since the bishop is blocking f8. So White would love to play some rook h3, some rook h4, and then go on the h5. A lot of defending for Black to do. She finds the right way. She plays f4 and then gets counterplay against the king, bishop d2. Here I thought that Black has enough to draw, and possibly she does. And here I don't think that she should lose this. Vaishali will be kicking herself here, and she's in for a rough evening because it's you have it's this position is definitely holdable. Of course, the threat that White has is to put the bishop on f6, right? And force you to play g6 and then play the rook to the h file and checkmate on h8. That's mainly the theme. So there are some threats, but exactly here, I thought that, what here, okay, there was a position where I thought that Black should have, okay, not here, before. I thought around, I thought that Black should just push the a pawn. There was a moment, man. Let's see. Um, okay, the moment. Maybe here. No, no, not yet. But Black must try to find a way to just push the pawn. You know, it's not so easy. Okay, let's have a look. F6, king f7, king d5. Now, this is possibly losing already for Black. Once the king gets in, it looks like it should be lights out. But maybe here, why not take this pawn? I mean, grab the pawn. Wait, am I just talking nonsense? Can White just play rook c3 here and win the exchange? Is this possible? Mm, possible. Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure even if, like, if, this way I would try, like rook e6, let's say. Now, this is not gonna work because White plays rook takes c5, right? No, but even if you play rook takes c5, I will take. Like, for example, if you either bishop takes or rook takes, I'll take. You must take with the bishop, and I take here. I mean, I don't know. Surely, can I not hold this position? I mean, if I all I need to do is exchange one pawn. I know it's not easy. Exchange one pawn and then try to then I play rook and king against rook and bishop. I don't know. I think she should have tried to bail out somewhere there, and defend it maybe that way somewhere. Hard to say, but I think that when she allowed the king to come in, this is definitely bad news here, right? Yeah, this is bad news. I cannot imagine Black holding this position. This is lost. Yeah, this is lost because the white king is going to go around and then like this, and you cannot stop the pawn, unfortunately. Yeah, this is just lost. Although she did fight, of course, she's fighting for her life here. I mean, the spot to the candidates and so on. And yeah, this is it's lost this type of position. And she resigned here. A very, very difficult position. Very, very difficult, very tense. And wow, what a fight it was. So yeah, there we are. So now, so these three players are waiting, and then tomorrow we're going to see the playoff between Harika against Deshmukh. That should be fireworks and exciting. We'll have a look and see whether the new young star, so to speak, yeah, Deshmukh is going to come through, or if the experience of Harika is going to keep her at bay. Let's see what will happen. But yeah, definitely was exciting today. And yeah, let's see what will happen tomorrow. So yeah, so please do comment and so on, and share, like, subscribe, please. And yeah, till next time. For now, I'm going to say, well, checkmate.